Shut up, Ack. Yo. I said shut up, Ack. Sorry. I'm listening to academics. Come here. Come over here. Get over here. Let me let y'all get in first. How's your Monday? Good? Good, I hope. I hope it's been like mine. Thoughtful, thought-provoking, reflective, productive. Sure, the Broncos did their thing. Congratulations to them. Over on Monday Night Football tonight, the Harbaugh Bowl is being had. Hopefully you're sitting watching that and listening to this. You can multitask. We've learned how to do multiple things at one time. Getting ready for the Nuggets as they're in New York to face the Knicks. We'll be over there for that, and I'll be back for 5 minutes to go when that game gets into the fourth quarter. But tonight, on Good News Travel Fast, I want to talk about culture. I don't want to get into anything too specific, but it's going to be pretty specific.
Deion trying to pretend like he's some kind that, Jesus is walking right with him as he builds this football program. It's offensive to me. No humility there from Deion. It's all about his sons. He favors his sons. He favors both of his sons and Travis Hunter. Not a whole team spirit. It's a group of mercenaries, Deion being one of them. The system has been...
Jason Whitlock. You son of a bitch. I shouldn't have ever heard that. Let's talk culture, you guys, tonight on Good News Travel Fast. No better place to do it than on the Kill You With Truth Network. Come on, let's go.
And now it's time to play everybody's favorite game.
Good news. Good news. We are having that combination. Jesus Christ. We can't run.
Dad did it. You made it. Hello and welcome to another edition of Good News Travel Fast. I am Orrin Lamena, Kill You With Truth Network. You already know what it is. Inspired by my good friend Darren McKee, otherwise known to you as D-Mac. You know, we all know what the news is. We all know what happened this weekend. I don't want to waste a lot of time recapping it because, well, we kind of have to. The subject I want to have, and I got about a half hour with you before I get out here. And then, like I said, we'll watch some Nuggets basketball. I'll be back in the fourth quarter of the Nuggets game, and we'll talk strictly about the Nuggets. There was an interesting story in the Denver Post yesterday about what it took to get Nikola Jokic to switch his focus, which I thought was a great interest piece, and just seeing what makes him tick and how he, has made his way to being, I don't even think there's really any question that he's the best basketball player on the planet currently. Now, and a generational talent for sure. One of the greatest big men to ever play the game. There are a lot of things that he's already solidified. But I thought that the conversation or the article was just some interesting insight into, how he got there. But this isn't that. I haven't felt the way I felt after CU's loss on Saturday. I haven't felt that way in a while. Quite honestly, I'm keeping it a buck. That feeling is what kind of drove me out of sports interest. After my professional career ended, but I was still following, it was that, I can't do shit about this. Why do I feel shitty? I didn't lose nothing. I didn't get my ass whooped. I didn't have no money on it. We take our sports seriously, and I have really adopted what's going on in Boulder as sort of a vicarious personal mission, I guess, to see that thing be successful. But there were shades of the type of conversations that I like to have in the wake of that loss. I like to look at sports and see where the intersections are between societal, cultural conversations and just the basic X's and O's, watch shit play out on the field. And there was some sound that came out in the post game, which you've probably already heard, but I need to set up my point. So there was some sound that came out in the post game presser from Coach Prime, and it addressed what I want to address today because it's my half hour and I can do what I want.
Period today. We start smelling ourselves a little bit. That's what I just told our team. We got intoxicated with the success. We got intoxicated with the multitude of articles and the assumption that we're this and the assumption that we're that. And we did not play CU football. Therefore, we got our butts kicked. It is what it is. Let's go.
All right. Good question, by the way, which Mario asks. Media Critic asks, excuse me. Why wasn't CU ready to play against Kansas? I think that's a great question because now here's my question. I'll redirect it to you, Media Critic. Was it that they weren't ready? Or was it that they weren't able? And when I say able, I'm not talking about the skill kind of part of the game. I kind of talked about this on Saturday on my own stream, but I feel like it's good to reintroduce this conversation to y'all. Football is a man's game at the end of the day, right? You can take all the X's and O's and all the cute plays and draw it up in the sand, and Travis Hunter's athletic ability and just tenacity and, unending engine, Shador's command of an offense and his ability to literally command an offense. I think their skill position players in that core receivers, maybe not their backs, but, definitely a bunch of guys that are able to really special it up, right? But at the end of the day, if you're not more physical, I feel like this always in football. At the end of the day, fuck all the rest of that. What happens when the other squad decides, how about we just hit you in the face? How about we hit you in the mouth and hit you in the mouth repeatedly? How about we hit you in the mouth, hit you in the mouth repeatedly, and show you that the style of this game is going to be in the most basic essence of what football is, that oftentimes gets lost in the mix in lieu of everything that we love about what we're seeing up in CU. And there's a larger conversation because with what Coach Prime just said, Kansas has won 3 consecutive games ranked against ranked opponents. CU has won in 6 against ranked opponents in the last 2 seasons. Okay, that's a fair point. In the last 2 seasons, you say that as if this isn't a team on the build. But to your point, I'm not going to, Media Critic, he likes to get in here and you like to mix it up, and I appreciate that. If I told you at the beginning of this season that CU would even had a shot, Media Critic, at the Big 12 championship game at the beginning of this season, what would you have said? And when you say they're 1-6 against ranked opponents in the last 2 seasons, I say to you that's a team that was 1-11 3 years ago, and 2 years ago was 4-6, and there was no reason to believe that a team that was 1-11 would be anything greatly better than 500 at the very least. And that includes playing against ranked opponents because bad teams don't beat good teams. Good teams tend to be ranked. So I think that number is a little, I think you're cherry picking, but you make a fair point. I want to talk about culture though, because we just heard Coach Prime, and what he addressed was something that I've been worried about. It kind of plays into Jason Whitlock's point that I played out of the beginning. And that's this. Culturally, what was on display. How has Arizona State played this season? I think they're in line to play in the Big 12 championship game. So I guess you're saying, what does it matter when you're rebuilding a program? It matters the way that you build a program. And that's what I want to get at. I tried to avoid this for a long time because, I didn't. When I came out of the gate, my biggest thing with CU was, God damn, it's flashy. Oh, it's grinding my sensibility gears. Because I do come up out of what I do believe is an outdated, antiquated way of looking at football. Hand the ball to the refs is all I'm talking about. Because, come on, man, it's a kid's game. These are men ridiculously dressed. If you walked into a restaurant and 3 people in the restaurant, just 3, were dressed in full football regalia, you'd wonder if you woke up in a dream. Okay? These are modern-day gladiators. What up, though? These are modern-day gladiators putting their athletic ability on display for our entertainment. So some of the things that I think people bristle against and some of the reason why, like that hit on Shedeur Sanders, is there any question in your mind that if that were any other quarterback, that would have been a targeting call? Am I going to say, I'm not here to say that people want to see him hurt or his career ended. What I'm here to say is I think that it's a natural old school desire to see bravado humbled. And the question I would have for Coach Prime when he says, and this is going forward, because everything to me was riding on Saturday's game, but it really wasn't. This is still a team that's going to finish 9-3. They will beat Oklahoma State. They will go to a bowl game. They still have in front of them the ability to go to the Big 12 championship should things fall into place. Arizona State that you bring up, media critic, should things fall into place, and they could. I mean, college football, if nothing else, is wacky, wild, and crazy. Things could fall into place. This could be a team playing in the Big 12 championship. All our hope would be redeemed. But, let me see what this is. Wickett cannot stand the approach taken by CU and was celebrating the result against Canada. Yeah, he was. He was kind of spiking the football, which I thought was classless, but is it okay to shove an official? No, it is not. What happened to Brandon Stokely 15 years ago when he inadvertently contacted? Yeah. No, it's not. But it's also a game where you got to admit that those officials, that officiating crew missed a missile strike aimed directly at his knees. We're talking about ending somebody's career in that fashion. Luckily for sure, I was surprised at Shedeur's response in the postgame, how measured. The one thing that impresses me more and more about Shedeur Sanders is he displays maturity that I personally didn't see coming. I didn't see it coming because of the perfect timing, the watch celebration, and what I want to get to. Here's my question to y'all. How can Coach Sanders, with the environment that he's created, how would you not expect your team to start smelling themselves? And in saying that, can you keep that same environment? Can you keep pressing up against the line between letting your hair down, being yourselves, and kind of the frivolity of fame? There are just certain things that you got to think about it like this. How many times do you see the shove happen in the second half and the hit in the knees occurred in the first half? I'm saying that's you're making my point for me. The shove happened in the second half. Oh, and the hit in the knees in the first. Yeah, exactly. You're making my point. If you miss that call, now I'm pretty much like, you're not my friend. You're not my friend, ref. You're not my friend. So if he shoves him and I feel like, to be quite honest with you, because that should have been targeting at the very least. That's a very dangerous play. Take out whatever you feel about whomever. That's a very dangerous play. let alone for quarterbacks. I thought we were one step away from wrapping quarterbacks in bubble wrap and suspending them above the field and letting them be all-time QB, never to be touched ever again. So, let me get back to my question. How can Coach Prime expect his players not to be intoxicated by you got NFL franchises, right? Everybody on the franchise is a millionaire. I'm quite sure many of them know, famous rappers or whomever. And there's always a bar at the door. This is as far as you go. Hangers on. Because we got work to do here, right? I don't care so much about the DJ in the locker room and all. That's kids being kid stuff. But the environment itself, can it be counterproductive when it comes to showing your players the line between being yourself, being free, being young, and not taking this thing seriously enough? And do you know tough teams that are also super flashy? Do those things ever go hand in hand? Because what ended up happening on Saturday, apart from what I believe was a dirty play by one Kansas player, the rest of the game was just Kansas deciding, how about this? We're going to play football. Do you have anything to bring to that conversation? And when I say play football, I mean the fundamentals of the game. Hit you in the mouth, be physical, run the ball down your throat. Yes, they were equipped to do that, but you would say so was Utah. So was Kansas State, and it wasn't like that. It was a concerted effort to be tougher and stronger. It reminded me of the Oregon game, to be honest with you, from last year. It was just and Oregon was also fast. It was a concerted effort to be. How can Deion not expect players to be intoxicated when he's going for statistics during games to benefit? Yeah, there's that. I think it's a little bit past that because the statistics in the game, to be quite honest with you, stop it. And that's always been a thing in college football, right? Margin of victory, all those things play into how a selection committee looks at you in terms of where you're going to go, where they're going to seed you. So all those things matter. So I don't even really mind that. College sports is the only place where rubbing it in, well, okay, maybe not basketball, but in football, you don't sit on it too much. I mean, Kansas scored on every possession except their last when they decided to sit on it, which is crazy. That's crazy. And they only had 7 possessions, if I'm not mistaken. That's crazy. That's crazy. And the style in which they dominated the game was over plus 300 yards on the ground. What does that tell you? It was more so, to me, how can Coach Prime expect his team to be able to stand up in the light of that when you haven't armed them? There are guys on this squad, and I've often said this. Levanta Bentley reminds me of one. There are guys on this squad who get to participate in the hey party that at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't know if you should probably be working on your footwork. I don't know if all of y'all are, but you can't give the spotlight that is generated by such a media circus to one and not have it glean on all. Is there a certain point in time when Coach Prime looks at Bucky and is like, okay, how do we do what you're doing, keep the media train running, but let's not break the fourth wall as much? Because these guys they can't take it seriously. How do you ask a young man who to date at this point is not getting paid the big dollars? How do you ask him not to fall into superstar status of whatnot, whatever, when that fourth wall is being broken? And now Bucky's interacting with the guys and it's, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? All the time. And then you want to turn to them because that team has no substance, in my opinion. This is all assumption as well, mind you. I feel like the one thing about the old school mentality, the old school grinder mentality, the one thing about that mentality that translates to football always is in a game like Saturdays. When it's like, now I need you to dig deep. Well, this ain't about This is about what's in your chest. Say it with your chest. This is about, is you a man, is you ain't. And there is something to be said about, I don't know if that breeds that. Because you should be focused. I feel like this. You ever been on a date with your lady? You ever been on a date with your lady? And does Deion Jr. add any tangible value to the team? Absolutely he does. Absolutely he does. I'll tell you why. Because in this new era, media critic, you're a media critic. In this era, like it or not, Coach Prime didn't set the rules for NIL, and name, image, and likeness has changed the game for forever. College football is now, it always was guys getting paid, but only certain programs were able to do it and keep it concealed, and and there was death penalties for the ones that weren't. Think about SMU. The college football landscape has changed, and we are talking about now what is in effect the minor leagues, legit for football. Okay, so with that being said, profile matters. Profile and marketing matter. And so do you think that without the well-off media circus, this team lands Juju? I don't think they do. I don't think if they get Boateng, I think many of the recruits that they've landed have landed there because of the look of it all. Of course, Coach Prime comes in with name notoriety, but there's no real D1 success there to follow. So what do you think they're following? And if you're a fan of this program, you want that. You want today's recruit who demands a different level of engagement to feel engaged. And it's a footprint, mind you, it's a footprint that few other programs will be able to master, which will always put our Buffaloes at the forefront of the recruiting race. And the recruiting race is an arms race. And that recruiting race isn't just for for high school seniors. That recruiting race is for your D2 standout who is tired of wallowing in anonymity on that level. And hey, I can go to see you. That's how you build a winner. And like it or not, that's what it is. Yeah, strong media machine is what the youngs want to be a part of. Yes, they do. Now, so you can either be hard-headed about that and get left behind, or you can get on board. But I do agree. I will say this for guys like Media Critic. I do agree there has to be some measure of understanding what the fourth wall is and why the fourth wall shouldn't be broken. How is it that these same problems, maybe these same problems do, I'd have to we should do a search on what is the record of a team that has Hard Knocks come and do a season on it. I need to look at that. Maybe I can search that real quick. I wonder if there's any hard evidence that having Hard Knocks record of teams that have been on Hard Knocks. It's a good question. I wonder if there's any. Okay. Here's a list of teams. Every NFL team's record after being on Hard Knocks. Boom, bully, we found it. Okay. Baltimore Ravens went 10-6 after being on Hard Knocks. Dallas Cowboys 2002 went 5-11 after being on Hard Knocks. Kansas City Chiefs 4-12 after being on Hard Knocks. Dallas Cowboys 9-7 after being on Hard Knocks. Okay, we got something shaping up here. Cincinnati Bengals 10-6 after being on Hard Knocks. New York Jets 2010 11-5 after being on Hard Knocks. 10 arguably most viral Hard Knocks history. Rex Ryan, let's go. Produced the best season in years. Okay. 2012 Miami Dolphins 7-9 after being on Hard Knocks. 2013 Cincinnati Bengals 11-5 won their division. Atlanta Falcons 6-10. It seems like most of these teams, like if you average out the win-loss record, it seems like we're going to come out at 500 or a little bit over 500 or better. 9-7, 2016 Rams 4-2. Jesus. Tampa Bay Bucks 5-11. It's not looking good. Cleveland Browns, hey, they had one tie, 7-8-1. 2019 Vegas Raiders 7-9. Okay. Okay. 2021 Dallas Cowboys had the best record, 12-5, won the NFC East. 2022 9-8 Lions. 2023 7-10 Jets. Oh shit. Okay. Yikes. Hard Knocks jumped the shark years ago. No franchise serious about winning wants it. Okay. I you know what? Here's the numbers don't lie, do they? Yeah, because to that point, no serious franchise wants it. There is a seriousness that needs to accompany football. Because at the end of the day, football is not about shiny watches. It's not about who's fastest. It will be. I mean, no, let me rephrase that. Who's fastest matters. It does matter. Do you remember? I'm old enough to remember Ronaldo Nehemiah, world-class sprinter. I think he might have been a hurdler. Went and played for the 49ers. Ronaldo Nehemiah had a very short-lived NFL career because at the end of the day, all that speed don't matter when it comes to coming across the middle and having somebody size you up and pretty much tell you, now, do you want to do this still? Football will always be, I think, at the end of the day, the deciding factor in every football game. I have no metrics to measure this, but in most winning circumstances, the more physical team wins. Whoever wins the line of scrimmage, yeah. So now that's just practice. So who cares if practice is happening and the cameras are rolling? Well, have you ever been, I was just going to say, you ever been on like a date with your lady? You guys are about to eat dinner and then she wants to take a picture of you. Like, don't eat yet. Let's take a picture of it. I want to post that. Take a picture. I want to post that. Come on, let's take a picture. I want to post that. Or when you go, you know what I mean? I don't know. You're on a hike or some shit, and it's like you just want to be in nature. And she's like, wait, hun, babe. Come take a selfie with me. I want to post that. Hey, I want to post that. Or when you were a kid, let's do it like this. When you were a kid, remember when you'd be dancing or something like that, and you were cool, you had a great dance, and then your parents would be like, hey, come here and show your uncle how you dance. And then all of a sudden you're just kind of like, it's not the same. It's hard to perform under the lights, and these guys have to get used to performing under the lights. But the lights are then always reserved for game time. And the more that life in a football circumstance becomes like every other fucking airhead on Instagram, and it's constantly about the post, how can you be focused on the nuance of the samurai mindset, I think, that accompanies the greatest football programs? And that samurai mindset might be, yes, we're all lifting the same amount of weights. When you average it up, we all might run about the same 40-yard dash time, but at the end of the day, when I want it more, you hit me in the mouth and I hit you back in the mouth. And now we can get back to skilling it out. But when you hit me in the mouth, I hit you in the mouth. And then, yeah, we get back to, okay, you didn't like that either, huh? Now let's skill it out. And then skill can take over. But if you can't be more physical, and I just wonder if the environment that Coach Prime is looking to engender in Boulder can also breed that type of football player. Now, having a Warren Sapp in your locker room helps. That's a crazy man. That's a wild man. They want to know they have notoriety and visibility in CU's media efforts. The unspoken promise, you have more of a chance of being famous here at CU than anywhere else. Yeah. But don't you, football, the best way to gain fame playing football is to be great at playing football. You know what I'm saying? It's not to be, follow me on Instagram, check me out. You know what I mean? Look at my watch. That's not the great. Did you like Dion and number 2 clapping back against people on social media earlier this year? Is that conducive to being physical? Let me see if I can. I think that all of us, as a society, we've taken social media and we've thrown it into this weird place where unreal spaces have become meta life. Like, people can say something to you online and it pisses you off, but it's like, well, that's not really happening in real life. You know what I mean? So for those of us who can divorce ourselves from it, I think that there is a space in which you can have a great time. for those of us that you know that you can have a good debate, or it can be substantive and it can be learning. But I do think that there is a thing that we've all lost societally, communicating in ways. I grew up on the block, right? So, you know, you could be snarky. I'm a snarky motherfucker. You could be snarky. You could be a smartass, but you also had to be good with your hands if that was you were going to be, right? Because eventually somebody was going to test your nuts. And so I don't know, media critic, to be honest with you. I don't know. Because I don't think that it takes away from being physical. I guess what I'm saying, what takes away from being physical or being is that sensei lock-in mindset. You know what I would want to see from how this is how I'll know when the culture has changed for the better and see you. Bucky's allowed to do what he does, and everybody that he's approached is like, get the fuck out of here with that camera, man. I'm trying to, you see what I'm saying? And it's allowed to be there. It's allowed to be there because I guarantee you in that environment, Bucky would become, I think, Deion Jr. would become a better filmmaker, because part of filmmaking, especially documentary filmmaking, is you're the fly on the wall. No one wants to hear from the fly on the wall because the fly on the wall wants to capture the real moment, and then everybody's allowed to fall back into their natural way of being. Everybody's able to fall back into, okay, these cameras are here, but I'm not really worried about that. I'm gonna get my work done. This game will come down to who has more heart, said almost every football coach ever, but it's true. It's true. And I think when your focus is divided and when it becomes more about being, you know, and I love it. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I had a whole problem, but my problem was different. I didn't want the braggadocio because I was waiting for the moments like these when I'd be like, see, now what are you going to say? But it's like, you can't, scared money don't win. You know what I mean? So you can't go into life, I don't believe, hedging your bets on whether or not you're going to say, I'm the best at what I do. And yes, my watch is gold and it's shining, perfect timing and all that. Do it. But then you invite a certain different level of scrutiny. Like it or not, it is what it is. And personally, I think I had to reconcile that with myself, because you know what? Fuck the people that want to say because you carry yourself a certain way that you're disrespecting a kid's game. Like, think about the thought of disrespecting a game. Now, there are ways I think you can disrespect the game within the game. Cheating to play, that's disrespecting the game. But the way you carry yourself, you know, NFL, NBA players having to wear suits or coaches wearing suits on the side, I think all that shit's bullshit. It's athletics. It's a game. This is fantasy world being played out in real life. So that's where I break company, right? But it is a fine line, because it's like, okay, within the facility, if there is no hallowed ground, or at least there's not a toughness, that says, I don't give a fuck about that camera right now, bro. Get that camera out of my face. I'm trying to get my work done because I'm going to go out this week and I'm going to hit somebody in the mouth. That tells me the mentality of the guy. And that's what I think the difference is. Was Deion a physical player? Yes, Deion was a physical player. He could tackle. And he like, I think what you're fishing for, to be honest with you, media critic, isn't going to, like, here's a better question. Did Deion's teammates who were physical players trust that Deion was going to do his job in every essence? And I guarantee you the answer is yes. Whitlock says Deion has put a target on CU's back and essentially writes checks his team can't cash. I do think that's, I don't think they can't cash, but they're going to be checks that you're going to have to cash, or this thing could go off the rails real quick. And if this thing goes off the rails real quick, meaning that you can't recruit players that are serious individuals that will tell Bucky, back up, bro, I'm trying to get my work done because I'm gonna go out here and hit somebody in the mouth. It's cool that you're here, but you know what I mean? That nasty kind of, you know what I mean? You got to develop that. You kind of have to develop that. And I guess that was my question that I would have loved to ask Coach Prime. I get what you're doing. I understand the media circus. I understand everything that's happening. Are you willing to, in certain regards, change a bit of the interaction? Don't stop it, but change a bit of the interaction. Because I do think that there's an unspoken thing. I don't think you can calculate the negative effects of constant attention, especially when it's non-craft related. Roll a little less tape, make things that are a little more meaningful. Like if pieces roll out and they're really inspiring and meaningful, not to say don't be yourselves, because here's what we're not going to do. For far too long, I think, y'all just have to be big boys with this part of the conversation. For far too long, I think The expectation of brash blackness has been tone it down so the rest of us feel comfortable in the room. That's not happening anymore. We're not doing that anymore. Culturally, I'm going to be who I am. Having said that, there has to be an understanding of what winning becomes. And we just looked at the numbers. Hard Knocks to tell you, it's already obviously. Now, you got to think too, the teams that they went and saw. Like, who was Hard Knocks with? And media critic says, well, good teams don't want Hard Knocks in their locker rooms. I think you're right. It's kind of a chicken or the egg scenario, though, right? It's 12-5 Cowboys. I'd have to think 2021. I mean, they had Dak Prescott. They were a good enough team to say that's a good team. You know what I mean? They went 12-5. I think it already has to do with what kind of team did they go see? Was it already a loser? I'd love to see the record of these teams before. I think this is a fascinating conversation because do we think that Deion has to change his entire way of being in order to build a winning program in Boulder? I do not. Do I think that Coach Prime needs to figure out the best formula? And the best formula is protect the fourth wall. Don't break the fourth wall. That's the first start. A little less conversation with the players. And I've noticed that in Bucky's content, to be honest with you. I've noticed that Bucky last year versus Deion Jr. this year, he talked a lot more to players on the sideline in practice. And how can you be focused on what the fuck you're supposed to be doing here on the field if you're talking to this nigga? Excuse me, to Bucky. How can you be focused on the field? You cannot. Let's see. Elway never wanted Hard Knocks covering the Broncos. No upside to it. I don't know. Thoughts on Prime firing Robert Livingston? Malone is expected to resign. Malone's expected to resign? Don't say that. I did not. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that defense benefited from a couple of things. Daniel, I think that defense benefited from a couple of things when it came to the competition they were playing and the way that they chose to play the game. Like, they were allowed to be. Does that strike you as a very physical defensive line? Good pass rushers, good off the edge. Never really saw much of a push up the middle. Their tackles don't strike me as, and their linebackers, like, I don't want to pick on any one person, but Levante Bentley is my guy. And he looks like an uncoordinated, oppy kind of not very skilled guy who, I don't see Malone stepping down sounds crazy. Malone resigning sounds crazy, but I can see where this team drives him crazy. And I can see where his style of coaching clashes with what the front office wants. They want to see their young players play. Okay, listen. If I'm not mistaken, let me look at something. You guys are awesome. Great questions. Great back and forth. I love having the conversation and having it round out. I want to hear from y'all. I like to have big round conversations, and I think that okay. Yeah, I think wait, what? 7:30, make sure. Okay, I gotta go. Check me out. We'll be back for 5 minutes to go during the Nuggets game, and we'll get more into this, and we'll talk about Coach Malone maybe leaving. All right, appreciate y'all. See you on the flip side.